So I've been given early access to a game called Racer Overdrive. Now this game in itself is a racing game. It's an arcade racing game, an arcade drift racing game to be exact, where the focus of the game is drifting. Now you do have other aspects to this as well, like say destruction of other vehicles, like Need for Speed, where you can crash into them. You've also got instances where you can actually take cars out via using specific attacks like EMPs and stuff like that. So there's more to it than the actual racing, but at the core of this, it is a arcade racer that is built for fun. If you've enjoyed arcade racers back in the day, that is where this is aiming for, graphically and aesthetically, and it just reminds me of good old school fun. Now, I really had a good time with this game. It just brought me back to those early years of me gaming. That doesn't mean that the game, graphically isn't good. It's actually pretty on point. It's not going for that realism. Plus, it doesn't have the licenses for the vehicles. So you'll notice a lot of the vehicles just have slightly different names to what they have, but you can see that the model of the vehicle is the same without insignias, like Mercedes-Benz being Benz M, for example. But let's get into the game structure and talk about what's available for you to do. So when you first boot up the game, you'll be tasked to control a bunch of vehicles. It is going to go horribly wrong. You're going to crash everywhere, especially after the November 8th update, which basically has it tweaked so the actual drifting is super sensitive. This was done intentionally. They are looking for feedback. Like I said, this is still in early access in terms of development, so this is more like a first look, but I will say this from the get-go, it is very promising as long as they get the drifting down right. And I think Ridge Racer should be something that the developers should be looking at and aiming for, because this isn't a realistic racing sim, it's an arcade sim or arcade racer. They should be looking at something like that, or maybe like V-Rally, Sega Rally kind of drifting, something that's not overly realistic, but totally fun to play. I mean, even games like Scud Race come to mind when I'm thinking of this game. So you have two modes in this game. You have Quick Race, which allows you to pick the number of laps, the course, and off you go. And that's pretty much self-contained. That's all it is. It's a quick race that you can go into, have a bit of fun, and get out. Now then you have what is called the career mode. Now, this mode is all about gaining popularity. There is a campaign to be played there, but it really isn't centered to anything. It's just there to add something to it that explains you going from bronze, silver, and gold licenses, or leagues as it's known here. So as you're going through, there's bronze, silver, and gold leagues. So you kind of journey along the way. Now, each league has its set number of challenges that you need to do, whether it's a police car chase like I had to do, or you have to come within the top 3 in order to gain popularity. The essential thing here is to gain popularity, and by doing stunts, by drifting and getting perfect drifts as well, where you can accelerate straight off a drift, those will get you a ton of points and popularity with the crowd. If you gain popularity, that is how, you've guessed it, well, you probably didn't actually, but you unlock new cars. And so as you're progressing through the career mode, you are unlocking cars in this manner. The more popularity you have, the higher, the better the vehicles you can get. Now, while you're playing through the campaign mode, the career mode, you'll occasionally get to a point where it says, hey, you've beaten this track, there's a subtask for you to do. You do that subtask and they can be super easy or super difficult, especially the one I had to do in Africa, which was a crazy track. But a couple of tries and I got it down once I actually got the drifting down. Now, they did, as I say, change the drifting. They made it super sensitive, which I think was a bad idea. I'm not a fan of it. I think it's way too sharp. The card literally can turn at the slightest press of the drift button, almost like 180, and it can completely throw you off. Now, there is a couple of bugs here and there where your car gets stuck on a wall, or it just stops responding entirely if you've crashed into a wall. Not that the vehicle's blown up or anything or crashed beyond recognition, it just stops responding. I've also encountered a bug where I was going the right way, but it was telling me I was going the wrong way, so it kept on resetting me. But that only happened once. Overall, I think this game is actually on point to become a decent game. I think it needs a bit more polish. I think the cars are fine. You've got cars all the way up to, you know, from a Ford Focus all the way up to what is a Lamborghini. And the journey going there seems quite intuitive. I did love the fact that there were different modes to your travel as you are playing through. So, like, you've got your standard races, which is great, but then you've got like other challenges where you have to wreck like 15-20 cars within a set time limit. And so instead of trying to whiz ahead, you've got to strategically make sure that you've got enough boost to be able to boost into these vehicles and destroy them. Another one had me driving a police car to try and catch 4 fugitives. And the way you'd catch them is, as I said earlier in the video, is use EMPs next to them, which you have to charge and then let go, well, let it rip, and then they are out of commission. Stuff like this add a nice variety to the game, and it makes it overall, you know, feel not stale. So I know people love their racing and don't want anything else with it, but for those that are seeking that true arcade kind of like experience where there's a lot of variety there in terms, well, there is some variety there, I should say, in terms of what the racer can do. This is it. My only gripe is, of course, the drifting, which is basically what the game is all about. The game focuses on its drift, and pre November the 8th, it actually was alright. I think the drifting wasn't so bad, but after the update on November the 8th, I think the drifting is just way too sensitive. And, you know, they say in their statement, we made an important tweak to the drift system to make every corner feel super sharper and more expressive. Now, when you start drifting, your car will respond instantly with a strong sense of motion and sideways pull. And this sideways pull is what's the problem, because it's really, really strong. So you can feel the drift the moment you hit the button. Believe me, you feel it, and it flies you off course, and really it makes the driving a lot more difficult. And it can quickly regain control when you no longer need it. This change aims to make drifting more intuitive and exciting, especially for new players discovering Racer Overdrive is all about fast, stylish, and effortless cornering. That's the problem. The cornering feels like it's such a chore. It's not effortless, and this change, in my opinion, didn't do it justice. But how it was previously was in a better place because it felt more natural with the drift, and it worked better. So you know, they do continue to say, if you've played the earlier version, you might notice stronger steering response at the start of each drift. This is intentional. We'd love to hear your feedback as we fine-tune balance. So this game is still in development. It's still in active development. It's not really released to the public yet. This is just a first look at, you know, they gave it to me to do a first look. Like I said, the music is fine. The voice acting is typical of the old 90s cheesy arcade where it's almost like monotone voice acting. Nothing to write home about.
Have you started collecting data yet?
Yes, sir. The data collection process has been ongoing since the first game.
We need massive amounts of data. Hope the data generated by this championship will be sufficient.
But, you know, perfect for that era, just not for what we expect today. But in terms of the actual graphical presentation, it was great. Now, the cars themselves look fantastic. The car audio, I should say, leaves a bit to be desired, especially with the exhaust popping. That popping from the exhaust is really loud, and I get it, pops from the exhaust are supposed to be loud, but it overpowers everything. So there's a bit more tweaking that needs to be done there. But overall, this game is definitely poised in the right direction. I think with a bit more polish, with getting the drifting under control and in a place where it's easier to drift, because that's the biggest problem the game has right now, considering it's all about the drift. This new implementation that they did really has made it sensitive. It took me about half an hour to get used to the drift, and even then I wasn't fully used to it, but it's definitely something that you can learn and is a skill issue, but you don't want in a game like this to have a learning curve. Games like these are pick up and play and fun. They've got a career mode. It's almost, I mean, it's super arcadey. You just want people to jump in and enjoy themselves. This is one of the great things about Ridge Racer, which made them so fun to play. So I'm really hoping that the developers can get inspiration from games like that and Sega Rally to get the drifting just right. Otherwise, I don't have much to complain about the game. Sure, the cars aren't, you know, officially licensed, but I don't care. The popularity system itself works really well. You've got 3 leagues to get through and a variety of courses, a variety of tracks. It just works. And after every track, you get like a side quest that you have to do in order to move on, and you unlock new cars as well. So they all kind of play into the story themselves as well. You get like an email, and that email talks about what you got to do, if you're invited, whether you're invited to a duel or something like that, or to test drive the vehicle itself. And then, yeah, so when you go into the showroom, you'll see that you've got like 15,000 popularity. You can pick up a car up to 15,000 and it doesn't deduct your points, it stays. So if the next car along is 20,000 popularity, even if you pick that vehicle up for 15,000 popularity, you've still got 15,000 popularity. It doesn't drop down. You just keep accumulating. In order to gain the popularity, you just need to come in the top 3 or complete the objective of what is being asked of you. And that's really it. It's super simple once you get your head around it. But coming in that top 3, especially at the start, could be a bit of a problem, like I said, due to the difficulty of the drifting and just how sensitive it actually is. Now, there are button prompts for this for Xbox and PlayStation, so it supports both controllers, but they're basically the same mapping. But yeah, overall impressions so far, game is definitely poised in the right direction. It needs a bit of work, but definitely one to keep an eye on. If you like arcade races, I would definitely shortlist this on your Steam list and keep an eye on it. I'm hoping they'll have a demo out for this when the time comes. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But this is one that I'm going to keep a keen eye on because it ticks those arcade racer boxes, like true arcade racer boxes that we haven't had in a while. And so I really hope the developers can take what I'm saying on board today and take the feedback as constructive and not negative, because I really did have a good time once I managed to somewhat get used to the controls. I spent around 2-3 hours on there, maybe more, over about 4 hours overall on the game that I was, maybe about 4 hours in total from what I was playing. But as I said, after the 8th update, it's like a whole new learning curve again, and I know they're going to be constantly tweaking and changing, so I'm not holding that against them, but this tweak that they did probably wasn't it. So I'm hoping they find the right balance, and if they do, I think they really do have a chance for a winner here and something that can really, you know, tick that box that a lot of people have been waiting for. But folks, that's my first impressions and overview of Racer Overdrive. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have, do leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Yeah, my driving in the game was terrible. I know that, and there was a bit of problems with my recording as well, so I've had to select certain parts. The thing, for some reason, it just didn't want, my PC just crapped out recording a 4-hour, well, 2 2-hour instances, and yeah. But that's the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.